The dangers of video games. This is a far cry from Connect 4. This is Digital Insecurity with Diane and Barbara. Remember the days where you would sit around a table or maybe even right there on the floor with your legs crossed, all excited to play the game of Connect 4? You'd drop in different colors, maybe run outside and play on your big wheel. We could watch Chips on TV. And of course, the Greatest American Hero would be on every Friday night. Those days are definitely shifting. And today we're going to look at the dangers of video games. This is Digital Insecurity. One of the biggest issues when it comes to video game safety is that predators may be lurking around the corner, or should we say behind the screen. Talk to your children about what they see, hear, and read while they are playing video games. Take the time to peek in every once in a while and check what they're doing. I also really think you should look at their history because they're quick to switch screens. Now, we have all the issues of addiction and the violence they're seeing, and really things that no human being should be exposed to, especially when they're just young and impressionable. But today we're going to talk more about a security issue with games. We're going to focus on denial of service attacks, malware phishing, and other opportunities that NordVPN outlines. So here we are. If you want to look at the link, I will put it down below for you, but we're on NordVPN. And this title is Online Gaming, How to Stay Safe from Hackers and Vicious Opponents. This was written by Emily Green, May 19th, 2021. And it says, just because online games take you to an imaginary world doesn't mean that they can't have real life threats. This is a whole world that so many of us don't know much about, and we let down our guards, especially when we're putting apps and games right on our phone, and it is sucking the information right on out to a funnel of whoever wants to pay for it or grab an API link to it. So we're going to continue reading here. Diane and I are going to review each section, and I think it's really going to be a lot of food for thought as we find out what to expect in the gaming world and how to protect yourself from hackers or vicious opponents. Okay, Diane, here's the contents that we're going to go through today. It's a really good outline article, which is why I chose this one, but I would like you to start here with, why would anyone want your gaming account? Do you want to take it from here?
Sure. Well, a lot of times in situations, with gaming accounts, people are, cheating. And that's really the biggest thing, or they're, violating their IPs and copying gaming and pirating. And so, but the hacker community seems, the malicious hacker community, I won't say the ethical hacker community, but, would have benefit in wanting to understand, what these cheats are so that they can throw their competition out and, manipulate the system so that they can win the prize, whatever that prize may be. I don't do a lot of gaming, so, I really don't know what the end result is, if it's just the win by a certain number of points and you carry those wins forward and create some awards, or whether it's really money in the end in these games. But I'm sure that if it's a game, that there's just that competition for that first place and that accolade that goes along with it. But you can understand, if there's money to be made in this, I think, in this world as well too. I mean, hackers can, if you kind of think of, a lot of abuse cases, you can think that, they might just try to get something out of the game system as well too, if there's money being pumped into it. And so, for the most part, whether you play a free or a paid online game, hackers can get plenty of value from your account. Remember all those unlocked or several years of collecting whatever it is that you're collecting, And anyways, so I think that's the biggest thing. And they can often use, take over your account, if you can imagine that. And then they can listen to your gaming conversations or read your chats, and reuse your login details to break into other accounts, for example, your social media accounts. They might be able to use your details in phishing attacks to even get more information out of you, or sell your details on the dark web, or use your payment details to purchase virtual currencies, send them to an attacker's account, and then resell them on the gaming platform or the dark web, or use your account to launder money. I mean, there's so many different, use and abuse cases that I can think of, but that would be kind of one.
Exactly. And this is really important right now. This particular section already mentions Fortnite, and down below we're going to see the others. Of course, over the last year, Fortnite, Minecraft, and Among Us really soared because children who were not allowed to go into a classroom sat at home on laptops. And many of the districts, specifically the districts in Silicon Valley that I'm aware of, refused to even put blockers on the accounts or on the laptops issued to the children. So instead of being in class, they would click, one tab over, and they had the whole internet. They could play games, they could connect with other people. And as a parent overseeing, I'm doing my own job. I can't sit next to and hold my child's hand the whole time. And so every time I walked in, he was on another tab. And it's very dangerous because, as it says here, most even forget the basic cybersecurity precautions. But in this case, if you're an elementary school student and you've never really had access to a computer, and now you're responsible for sitting there 6 to 7 hours a day, 5 days a week for a year and a half, you can imagine the amount of learning and digging and freedom that these children had. And as you mentioned, the concept of phishing attacks, this goes even deeper because in most of these cases, the parents have set up the account for the child, because you have to be of a certain age in order to buy all those skins or cosmetics or whatever upgrades you're doing from real world money into this virtual environment. And so these phishing attacks are actually going after parent information. And in most cases, the parents don't even realize how vulnerable they are. So here's the next section. How do hackers break into your account? Do you want to explain this a little bit about weak passwords, especially in a gaming scenario?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to kind of read right here because you've already got it up, so that's great. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make when creating your gaming account is to use a weak password, or anyone could find a very basic one that comes with just the default, and oftentimes people don't change that. That's one of the big things with that's wrong with roping a lot of IoT devices and a lot of systems into issues. But in this particular case, when it comes to the Minecraft or the Roblox account you might have made years ago before you had a decent knowledge of cybersecurity, it probably had a really weak password. And so you don't want to lose the progress across those games. So really, folks just need to go in and update their passwords and make sure that, hackers don't have easy ways in um, uh, into, areas that they really shouldn't be in. So hackers have a large, database of common passwords that come in handy when they're performing brute force attacks. And really, to complete a brute force attack, the hacker only needs your username and your email address. And then they'll basically use a bot that will try to get with all the passwords on their database until they finally succeed, or until they go through the whole list, and and hope that they have some luck there. And
Diane, this is really key. I think that a majority of individuals, especially these elementary kids segment, do not understand the concept of brute force attack, because they're going to think, how is somebody going to figure out my password? And when an individual isn't attacking you as another individual, but somebody has set up warehouses of massive computers and servers, and they're using artificial intelligence with machine learning combined into it in order to spam with massive passwords as fast as they can, eventually they're going to figure out there's only so many combinations of a password. And if it's a password 1234, that's going to be top of the list. which is why they give you scenarios of putting a capital letter, a small letter, but you've got to put in more and more characters to be able to at least delay the brute force attack, even if you can't stop it. And here you also mentioned Minecraft and Roblox. These are really important because you can think, oh, maybe you play that on a PlayStation 4 console as an example. Well, my son came into my office and downloaded without my permission a Minecraft server that he accesses, and he's constantly saying that somebody else is getting into his private server and erasing what he's done. So he already has a breach, and it is on my laptop. Now, another way people can do Roblox, that was Minecraft as an example, but Roblox is often downloaded right to a cell phone. And many of us do not have basic security protections on our cell phone. So these simple games out there that that are common, that are big names, they're really opening up to wide breaches that individuals just don't even have on the radar.
Yeah. And that screams, for folks to really get VPNs, some encryption capabilities on their
Thus NordVPN, huh?
on their phones, yes, and on their desktops, and make sure that they have MFA turned on. It's just one other application. I think a lot of the some of the VPNs do take care of it at their end, but always want to. I don't know how every single VPN works, so you might want to make sure that you're checking with your provider or that you're turning it on at your own end as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to read data breaches and then I'll let you read the credential stuffing down below here. So we're all familiar of data breaches. We're always getting those letters in the mail that said, oops, my bad, I leaked your security, good luck to you. And sometimes they'll provide maybe 6 months or a year worth of protection. But once your information's on the dark web, the cat's already left the bag. You can't put the cat back in the bag. And so it's gone. And even if that information is changed, maybe the password is changed, along with that went your username, your address, your name, maybe a credit card, and somebody just needs to piece the puzzles together and eventually they have the whole picture. So here it says data breaches seem to have a pretty widespread threat. In its research, the cybersecurity company KELA discovered nearly 1 million compromised accounts associated with gaming clients. And their estimate is very low from what I've read, the gaming clients and employees. 50% of them were offered for sale in 2020. KLA also found out over 500,000 leaked credentials of gaming sector employees. So those who work in the gaming sector are not even protecting their own data, more or less their client data or those logging onto the server. So this is never ending. And since this is a world driven by technology, whether it's an ATM or online payroll or working from home, the data breaches are coming in every direction. Okay,
Yeah.
Diane, you want to tell us
Uh,
about credential? Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to make a comment on that as well too. The dark web just runs incredibly sophisticated itself, when it comes to selling credit cards or selling gaming cheats or, selling, um, anything as far as, uh, credentials, they it's like a Amazon store, if you will, in the underground. And so, you can order 1 to 500 to, various different blocks of whatever it is that you want as far as anybody's, data that you want to serve up, and, they'll sell it to you. And so, it's a really, sketchy situation, and you'll want to make sure that, you have some capability to maybe have somebody look at, what is showing up for you on the dark web as well too. And hopefully the FBI is, looking into that. I know that they troll that whole, dark web looking for folks that are, operating as such. But, it's just one more thing to add to the mix of, leaked credentials as one more thing that could be showing up there for sale, But okay, so as far as credential stuffing goes, you know, um, what can I say on this? You know, if you reuse passwords on multiple accounts, you may also be vulnerable to credential stuffing attacks. And so if your login details have been previously leaked or a hacker breached any other account of yours, they will probably try to reuse that same login details on other platforms. And so if you use the same password for your gaming account or your online banking account, that's where you're going to get into trouble. Credential stuffing is just another common type of threat. Back in, there was a report done by Akamai, a cybersecurity company. They published and revealed that the video game industry experienced almost 10 billion in credential stuffing attacks. And this is a pretty updated number, with 152 million web application attacks between 2018 and 2020. The attacks especially peaked during the COVID lockdown. So, this is just another industry that really just start to take off. And one more reason why you want to make sure that you have your VPNs on and you're looking at your security. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. This one here has always been one of the scariest for me, cross-site scripting. Of course, cross-site scripting is another type of attack that's very, very common, actually, and hackers are able to steal your login credentials. And here it goes into how it works. Some website servers do not reconfirm authentication every time they exchange information. They're not looking for that handshake. Hackers use this vulnerability to inject scripts into the website's UI, user interface, which can then be used to steal the information you entered into that website. And so that is just extremely common as we've seen it. Now here we're going to get into other threats, and these are the ones that we'd mentioned as we stepped onto this site. And the first one is the DDoS. Would you like to go over that one?
Sure. Let me pull that up here, or you got
Yeah,
it here on
so
your.
so it's a
Hold on one second.
distributed denial of service.
Attack. So if you're serious about gaming and you do it professionally or competitively, you may become a victim of a distributed denial of service attack. This is usually where you're using a botnet with hundreds of thousands of infected devices, and you're creating a botnet, and a hacker could flood, if you will, also known as a flood attack, flood your router if the IP is known, or the game server that you're connected to with requests. And this creates typically a system overload, or a flood, if you will, of the pipe, and it shuts things down. And so as a result, your game is disrupted or you get disconnected. And so, in gaming, your League of Legends, teams won't be happy with the blackout of your system when we'll suffer, a full outage in a DDoS attack. These DDoS attacks, are known to, outside of gaming systems, they're just known to even, if y'all remember the Mirai botnet, was it in 2016, I think, how that whole orchestration of zombies and bots that were, brought in, CCTV cameras, baby monitors, refrigerators, IoT devices, in a massive, um, in a massive, distributed denial of service that really took down the Dyn, and which was a service provider that kept so many companies up. And when that basically took down service, it took down so much productivity from a development standpoint, from e-commerce standpoint, from all kinds of standpoints. And so, in gaming, it's the same thing. It's just taking your system down, but this is the essence of a DDoS attack. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of DDoS attacks around the time of the voting of your opinion for who we wanted to represent us on a government level. A lot of sites were completely dropped altogether. AWS went in and literally shut off a number of sites that were competitors to Twitter, as an example. So this is very common, and it's not just from a hacking perspective. We've now learned it could be from the service provider as well. We saw quite a bit. GoDaddy also launched denial of service attacks during the same period of time. So it's really something to, I talk about quite a bit. You don't want to have build your company on a single platform, because when that carpet gets ripped out from under you, you won't have something. And it's really a when, not an if. So making your house as stable as possible. From here, we want to look at malware. Hackers can also try to trick you into downloading malware. In this case, if you want a game that's not released in your country residence, you can decide to download it from a peer-to-peer website. That's P2P. Hackers know what games are popular, and so they will certainly use that as bait. So don't get tempted to download malware masquerading as new game releases. We also saw Hollywood did quite a bit of this because they got frustrated with individuals downloading their videos for free. So they started putting malware in the information that was being downloaded, or the download links. So, we all know we can usually go to CNET and trust that site. Of course, the company site that actually has the game, or where the organization is hosting it. But eBay is not the place that you go to download information. All right, phishing. Do you want to take it on phishing?
Sure. So phishing can also be used to trick you into clicking on malicious or spoofed links. So for example, Fortnite players, in gaming might have been tricked into clicking on links posted in gaming forums, offering them discounted or free virtual tokens and other accessories. In reality, the links are typically part of a cross-site scripting attack that help hackers breach players' accounts. So they can also send you the phishing emails using the information they already have, i.e. your email address. But they'll trick you into thinking that they are from a legitimate company, and this way they may steal even more information from you, like passwords, payment details, home address, and more. Yeah.
Exactly. One that we saw this week was something like a citibankcustomerservice.com, and that was the email that it came from. So it might have been customer service at citibankcustomerservice.com. And you think in your mind, that's a lot of letters, and it probably just comes from Citi or from something else that's already in your email list. So if you see something in your email that is coming from an address that just doesn't look familiar, or might look like there's too many letters in there, or maybe city with a 2 after it, where it's usually just a city, that's a clue that you probably shouldn't open it, and definitely don't click on it. And we also know that from the phishing attacks parlay very nicely into social engineering, where somebody's going to get on the phone and take it a step further, or it meets you on the street. Do you have any comments about social engineering?
Yeah, well, that would be more vishing than anything. When it comes
Exactly, with
through
a
on
V.
the phone.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And, it was really interesting because I was just recently vished, or not vished, but there was an attempt to do that. I had received a call from Amazon. It was an automated service, and I knew, like, this doesn't sound right, and they basically said, somebody was trying to make charges onto my account for $399 and $700 respectively, and that to call them back or press something to confirm. And what happened was the system just shut itself off and disconnected itself, which I was glad. I knew at that moment to probably expect a call back, because they were going to try either to re-engage or maybe not. But I knew that had been, my antenna went up, and I knew that was probably a phishing attack or attempt.
But
And
even that example, Diane, is amazing, because you are very strong in the digital security space. And yet I'm sure at some point in the back of your mind, you might have wondered, is there any truth to this at some point in that? And if you
yeah,
didn't have a digital security mindset, you probably would have panicked, or pushed the button, or taken that next step.
yeah, and that's true. And so, what I did do was, thank God it disconnected. And then I called Amazon, and I wanted to understand, would they do something like that, make an outbound call if they felt that something was, wrong. And so I wanted to know,
Mhm.
do you see anything on my account that looks like chargeables at these amounts? And they said no, that it was probably, a social engineering or a phishing attempt, um, so yeah, so that was that, and I just moved on from that. But they're doing these by way of robocalls now, and they're getting very sophisticated and trying to see who falls for them. And it's just, and they're doing it with our best named companies, who we all know and trust and love for everything that they're doing and the innovation that's going on. And somebody's going to get caught up in this, but yeah, that's what's going on in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really interesting because a neighbor of mine had her mail stolen. And then shortly thereafter, she got a phone call saying there was a problem with her Xfinity, her internet. And so she went ahead and called them, but they'd already set up a routing and they had her mail. So they told her there was a problem with it. They needed to come to the house to fix it. And by the way, she needed to set up a Gmail account that they could access. She needed to then go buy Disney gift cards to fund them and then give them the links to the Disney gift cards to see whether or not they would cross-reference with her information on the Xfinity account. We all know that that's BS and red flags, but this is an older woman who is very, very trusting, did not grow up in a digital society, and she lives alone. So she was a prime target. Well, she still said, no, I don't think so. I don't think this sounds right. So they went ahead for over a month and called her almost every day. They were really, really aggressive until
Wow.
finally they showed up at her door. And they said, hi, we're from Xfinity and we're here to reset your system. We just need to be able to look at your laptop to reset the password. And at that point, she was scared and intimidated because somebody was face to face. So rather than, she didn't know what to do, she panicked and she let them get in, and they ended up cleaning out all of her bank accounts is what they ended up getting access to. So this phishing on the internet transposes very quickly to the vishing or social engineering in the real world and has real complications.
Wow, that is a very scary story. That is like one of the reasons why we need everybody to really take hold of the security, because somebody can get in through some open hole, and our addresses are out there, our doors may be locked, but you still should make sure that you lock up your computer, at night, even when you leave your computer, and you turn your Wi-Fi off. You should always lock your computer. If you got an Apple, go up to the Apple and lock your computer. If it put things in your, in a locking cabinet, and even make sure that you've got special locks in your drawer jams so that folks just can't, if they can bypass your locks, that they can also, have some extra security measures. Of course, nobody can, easily, windows can be broken, you know, doors can be kicked down, but you got to do whatever it is that you can do to just kind of help protect yourself as much as you can.
You're
That's a
right.
very, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a very unnerving story, actually.
yeah,
And
and when we were back at the point where we had desktops, it's kind of odd if you see somebody walking down the street with a big big computer console that they're kind of having a problem getting in their car. But nowadays, when many of us are working from home and it's really just a laptop that's grab and go, if somebody is seen leaving the front of your house with a laptop under their arm, nobody's going to think twice. And there goes all your employee information, your personal information. Is just that easy. So they don't even have to get in your home and hack it. They can just grab it and deal with it later.
mhm.
So it's really interesting. I'm going to go into this cyber stalking and cyber bullying, and then I'm going to let you tie into how to protect yourself. And I really want to point out again that if we're looking at Roblox or Fortnite or Minecraft or Among Us, those are highly funded examples in the gaming industry, and they have levels of security that they've implemented for a variety of reasons, maybe altruistic, maybe not. But if we go to the Play Store or the Apple Store, you're going to see literally millions of opportunities for different apps to download or different games or different things that'll help you in life. And this is where I guide people. Don't click on a shiny object. If you don't need it, don't bring it into your world, because I guarantee if Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, Among Us, or even the Department of Defense has been hacked, Department of People Management within the federal government has been hacked, then I guarantee these small little one-off apps or small games in a Play Store or Apple are going to have their insecurities as well. So let me pull into this cyber stalking and cyberbullying before you go into the really meat of this, of how to protect yourself. This can also make your online and offline lives more challenging. Toxic behavior can be common in video games. Opponents can look up your IP address, find out your location, or even your identity 100%, and then bully you on social media and other gaming platforms. By knowing your preliminary address, they can stalk you in the real life too. And so the question here is, who said gaming isn't dangerous? And as we opened this up, we started out by, there's addiction and there's the welcoming of violence to the eyes that shouldn't be seen for most of humanity, but certainly not children. And here we've gone in other ways to come into this. And I want to point out one more thing before we go to protect yourself. I was on hold with the US Postal Service, where they had on their recording, while you're waiting for somebody to come on the line, state if you have somebody's phone number, then they will give you all the digital, all the social security accounts that they have gathered for that information. Or if you have somebody's address, they can give you the phone number. And then again, with the phone number, you can get all the social media. Because again, as we pointed out in one of the other videos, the US Postal Service has a surveillance arm, and it has been out there for over 100 years, but really ramped up in the last few decades, as it not only started scanning every piece of our mail, but it also tracks us on social media for better or worse. So Diane, how do we start to protect ourselves?
Well, I'm not really aware that the post office was operating that way. It's so funny because, I feel like the post office is still antiquated. I didn't think that they were, doing anything. Just going back to the stories that we were talking about in the mail, just for a moment, you know, um, I am aware of, a home association that had the mailboxes for several 52 um, homeowners that all were opened by someone who had a key. And
A
so,
master key?
it was, yeah, who had a master key. And normally the postmen have that. So how that got into, the hands of someone else, he apparently happened to be on vacation when the break-ins happened to several different post mail boxes and all the mail of everyone. And at that time, I think they were looking for the stimulus checks that were going out, but oftentimes they'll want to, find all those credit card applications that are going out in the masses too, so that they can start credit cards, in your name. And so it's all the more reason to be, put freezes on your accounts and stuff in this climate. But with all the providers that are out there, right, with the freezes that they do, all the credit bureaus, if you will. But yeah, so when getting back to, this with the cyber stalking, there are many different examples that can happen in cyber stalking. People can monitor the location of your check-in and social media. They can visit you virtually from Google Maps and Street View. They can hijack your webcam. They can install stalkerware. They can look into geotags and track your location. And I think the way that you protect yourself from this is, as frightening as cyber stalking is, there are a few ways that you can protect your privacy online, and that's really review your private settings on social media sites, since this is where cyber stalkers love to snoop on their victims. Make sure that you're not oversharing, adjust your settings. Really don't put your phone number out there. You don't want to be SIM swapped. You don't want to receive those phishing calls, and things of that nature. So adjust your settings, but in your social media sites, and make sure that that only people from your friends list can see your photos and updates and your personal information. Avoid accepting strangers to your social media networks. Unfortunately, we're doing that right now in this climate because everybody's trying to get followers and trying to do business with each other. This is a really, this is a really uneasy time, like I don't have a lot of followers because I'm scared to have too many, but and then I also feel like there's this fear of being left behind, because people are branding themselves and talking about what they do. And, there's a fine line that we walk when we're in cybersecurity and you put ourselves on social media. We don't want to put targets on our backs. We don't want to have cyber stalkers lurking around us and ask for things, and it's really, so we have to be careful to look into our accounts. People are also feeling tempted to tag the location of that really cool coffee place that you're at. I hate when people tell people where they're going to be, where they're going on vacation, when they're going to be gone and away from their computers, especially if they're in cybersecurity. I ask myself, oh my gosh, you're in cybersecurity. Why do you do that? You never want to show anybody, the environment that you're working in either. I mean, it's just more asking for stuff that you really don't want to, deal with. So, if you can, turn off, for purposes of not being tagged, you can turn off that geotagging, remove your location, um, turn off your location services in your phone too. And, in your social media accounts, you can, adjust things so that, people don't necessarily have to see your photos. And so just, think about some wise things that you could be doing when it comes to Facebook events. They're great for planning, but they can also be the worst enemies in terms of privacy. So when appearing in the feed, they can show your stalker where and when to find you and to indicate your interests. And it's like, why let them in, So set up strong and unique passwords for all your online accounts. Don't share them with anyone. And since coming up with dozens of different complicated passwords can be a hassle, definitely use a password manager like NordPass, KeyPass, Pass, LastPass. There's so many different ones out there. Enable your two-factor authentication where possible to get that extra layer of security. This way, even if someone gets a hold of your credentials, they won't be able to hack your account. Cyber stalkers can, exploit the poor security of public Wi-Fi networks to snoop on your online activity and steal private information. Therefore, avoid sending emails or sharing your sensitive information when connected to unsecured public Wi-Fi, or you can use a VPN service like NordVPN, which will encrypt your online activity and protect your private data from unwanted snoopers. Really just check how much information one can find out about you online, or in other words, check your Google ability. And if you see that there's too much a cyber stalker could find out about you, by simply running a search on Google, try to take some information down. I'm working to try to find these companies that actually can help us take some of that information down. And I hope to have some more information for you soon. But, don't open any suspicious messages and don't click on any unknown links or files. They're likely to contain malware, which will infect your devices, just give you ransomware. Definitely use all the antiviruses that you can. Keep your spams at bay. Protect yourself as much as you can from all these digital threats that you can. And really, that's what I would tell folks to do. Just go through everything, slow yourself down and go through your accounts. Every single one of us needs to do this. And we just know you know, we just need to, right? With a fine tooth comb and make sure we know these social media platforms like the back of our hand. And so that we can prevent cyber stalking. But if you do experience cyber stalking, because even though the laws aren't perfect, you should still consider reporting it to law enforcement. The first thing to know is that you will likely have to provide documentation if you're being attacked by a cyber stalker through email, messaging apps, or any other electronic means. Keep the records, save your copies, take your screenshots as evidence, report them to the platform on which the harassment is taking place. It might take some time, but most websites and apps have some strict policies against such abuse. And then block the attacker and do not engage with them any further, no matter how tempting it might be. You just have to have your antenna up, and do what you can to just keep always looking at your security.
Diane, a lot of great points. Thank you very much. And you're correct. You can go to the police department, and it's so easy in most cities and counties. You can file it right online. And quite honestly, they're probably not going to get back to you, but at least you have a file in case you have an insurance claim. And then also the FBI does take digital security very seriously. So you can also contact the FBI, and their information is available on their website to file as well. Again, they more than likely will not reach out to you, but they put in a database and they collect information in an assimilated manner, and then go after the biggest fish they possibly can. So this, of course, NordVPN is just one of the products out there that can help. We did not receive a sponsorship today. This was just a great site that we felt would be very helpful with links, with a breakdown of content. So I will put this link in the description below when we post this video. And as we move forward, Diane and I are really going to take some time and tap more into these different concepts. And we're going to slide on over into a DIY scenario where we can deep dive in showing you how you can implement some of these concepts that we've talked about today. Really, how to safely lock down your life. We all know that things happen, but we can do a lot in order to control our space. Diane, are there any follow-up words you'd like to put in here?
Not really. I think we covered it. I think we covered it. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, Diane, thank you very, very much for the conversation and the knowledge base today. This is digital insecurity, danger of video games. And once again, this is a far cry from the world that we grew up in with Connect 4 and Big Wheels and cute little shows that supported the environment like Chips. It really encouraged community. And yet here we are in a virtual world that creeps into our personal space and can really do so much harm. This is digital insecurity.
Thank you very much. Be safe out there.